All right, so the Shulchan Aruch Mishna Brura for today is chapter 48 and 49. Both two very short chapters. Omrim Parshat HaTamid Upsuke Korban Shabbat. Omrim Etzel Parshat HaTamid. V'osef Echad. We say the parsha, the section of the Tamid, the continual offering, the everyday offering. We'll see what that is. And the verses of the Korban Shabbat, of the Shabbat offering, Omrim Etzel Parshat Tamid. We say them Etzel by, next to the Parshat Tamid. Omrim Parshat Tamid Ramo says, and we say the Parsha of the Tamid, V'yesh Omrim, and some say Seder HaMa'aracha, the order of Ma'aracha, like Aruch, setting out. That was setting out the altar, setting up the altar. The Ribon HaOlamim, and Master of the worlds. Atat tzivitanu, you commanded us. The idea is that's a prayer saying, Hashem, you commanded us to bring the korbanot. We're unable to bring the korbanot, and so therefore in their place we are saying these. We're saying these korbanot. Ve'im efshar, and if it is impossible, lo omro, to say it, but sibur, as a community, yachol leomra beveito, he is able to say it in his home. Velachzor, and to go back, Parshat Tamid levad im hatzibur, only the Parshat Tamid alone, together with the community. So the idea is that he's saying, ideally, the whole community says all of them together. But maybe other people go much faster, and you can't keep up with all of them. So then you do it all at home by yourself, and you just do the tamid. The daily offering was a sheep every morning, a sheep every afternoon, that you do together with everyone. Ve'yechavein b'pam hashniya, and you intend the second time, k'koreh b'Torah, like you are reading in the Torah. In other words, what you're really doing is like you're offering up the korban yourself. So it should be, since that's what it represents, so it should be that you're doing that all together with the whole community. But since it's not together with those, since you're doing it at home, so you're offering it to yourself at home, when you come together with the community, then you're just saying it, because you can't offer up that korban twice. V'nahagu hamadaktikin, and those who are precise have the custom lehitno'eya b'shah shekorim b'Torah, to move at the time that they are reading the Torah. Dugmat ha-Torah shenitna beretach, like the Torah is similar to the Torah. Dugma means an example. Similar to the Torah, which was given with trembling. It was a great, awesome, trembling, terrible thing, in a good way, to receive the Torah. And so, when people say this, they move back and forth with trembling. They shake as they read it. V'chein v'shah shemitpalelim al shem kol atzmatai tomarun Hashem mikamocha. And so too, at the time that they are davening regarding all of my bones, will say, Hashem mikamocha, Hashem who is like you. So that's the idea of actually shaking as you say it to represent the awe that we have as we're going through it. V'Shabbat omrim etzel parshat tamid psukei musaf de Shabbat. On Shabbat we say, close to the section of the Korban Tamid, the verses of the musaf. Musaf literally means extra, the extra offerings that were brought on Shabbat. But we do not say these on Rosh Chodesh and Yom Tov, mipnei shekorim b'Torah b'psukei musaf, since we read in the Torah the verses of musaf. See, on Shabbat it's an interesting thing. Whenever we have musaf, whenever we have maftir, what that really is maftir is bringing the korban. Maftir is the korban that was brought for that day in the temple. For Shabbat, it's only 2 verses, and we can only read in the Torah, as we saw a couple of days ago, we can only read a section of 3 verses. So we never read the musaf of Shabbat. Whereas when it's Rosh Chodesh and whatever else, we read in the Torah the musaf of Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, to compensate for that, we say the musaf of Shabbat when we say the korbanot in the morning, not of the other festivals. Yesh Omrin, some say, she mazkirin gam musaf Rosh Chodesh, that actually we do say Rosh Chodesh, even though we're saying it later in the Torah, so we'll say it early as well. V'chein noagin, and this is our custom. Kedei lafarseim shu Rosh Chodesh, in order to publicize that this is Rosh Chodesh. V'cheinu lekam, and so too later on, as we'll see. So the idea is that, like we bang and say, Ya'aleh v'yavo, we're saying the prayers for Rosh Chodesh. If you say that in the morning, then it gets everyone into the Rosh Chodesh mindset. Okay, so now we spoke about that this is the saying the Korban Tamid. V'hi b'makom akravat Korban Tamid. This that we say about it is in place of Hakravat, bringing Korban Tamid, the Korban Tamid. Shekain kiblu Chazal, this is what our sages of blessed memory received. Shebizman she'ein Beit HaMikdash kayam, at the time that the temple, Beit HaMikdash, is not kayam, standing, existing. Ve'ein yocholin lahakriv korbanot, and we are not able to bring korbanot. Mi she'osek, somebody who is engaged by him in them, uva farshioteihem, and in their parshas. Ma'ale alav hakatuv. The Torah literally raises it upon him, but that means considers it. The Torah raises it upon him, the Torah considers it, ke'ilu hikrivam, as if he had brought them. Ulakach, therefore, yeshomrim, some say, gam kein seder ha'ma'arach mitam zeh. Also, the order of the setting out, from this reason, Vahu mashenit pashet, and this is what has spread haminhag, the custom bi'amenu, in our days. Lomar b'chol yom Abaye have masader, to say every day Abaye would set out, would order the setting out of the korbanot as follows. V'nirali pashut, and it seems to me obvious. So pashut and nitpashet, it's the same kind of word. It's spread out, it's clear, it's right before our eyes. To me, sheyodaya, one who knows, Sefer Mitzvah, the book of a mitzvah, lilmod b'gemara perisha mamra hazu, to learn in the Gemara the explanation of this saying. V'chein ma shanu omrim b'chol yom inan yanei isiat hakatoret, and so too what we say every day, the ideas of the making of the ketoret, the incense, kedei, in order, sheyavin, that he will understand, ma shehu omer, what he is saying. So somebody has the ability to delve deeply into exactly what was going on with the korbanot and the ketoret. Uvezeh teichashev lo, and with this, it will be considered for him, ha'amira, the saying, b'makom, in place of a haktara, burning in smoke. Right? Ketoret, incense which was burnt in smoke, haktara. V'chein katvu asfarim, and so too the books wrote, V'masha amar ha-Gemara kola osek b'parshat olah, this that the Gemara says, whoever is engaged in the section of the olah, the elevation offering. HaKavanah, the intention is, shuhu mit'asek lehavin inyana, that he is engaged to understand its idea, to understand the matter at hand. Lo amirat hatevot levad, not saying the words alone. Katav HaMagen Avraham, the Magen Avraham wrote, Parashat HaKorbanot Yomar B'Amidah, the section of the Korbanot you should say standing. Dugmat HaKorbanot Shaya B'Amidah, similar to the example, following the example of the Korbanot which were said standing. V'ayin b'shari tshuva b'shem kam achronim, take b'shari tshuva, and then have many achronim, shehol cholkin al zeh, who argue with us, uva prima gadim, katav, and in the prima gadim he wrote, mikol makom b'parshat tamid rawi lamod. Nevertheless, when it comes to the parsha of the tamid, it is appropriate, rawi, fitting, to stand. Shikoyin b'tzibra b'kol ram, because we read that in the community in a loud voice. Gam ma shekatav b'ber heitev b'shem derech chochma, also what you wrote in ber heitev in the name of derech chochma. Shizar lomar parshat tamid b'tzibur ima shaliach tzibur. You should be careful to say the section of the tamid in the community together with the community leader. I'm b'shari tshuva shizig al zeh. Take a look in Shari Tshuva, who claims against this, his sig. like to claim against, who takes issue, maybe is a better translation. Who takes issue with this. Katav, the Pri Megadim wrote, this that is written in the Siddurim, and the wording of may be your will, as if I had offered up the Korban Tamid. So he said, take issue, and Yehi Ratzon, may it be your will, as if we have offered up the Korban Tamid. Yesh Gorsin Hikrafti. Some say it's I have offered, some say we have offered. Hikrafti, I have offered, Eino Nachon, is not correct. Ki Kravti Baparshat Chatat Ab Elim Ketikai. The I have brought personally is regarding the Chatat, the sin offering, or the cleansing offering. That's when you say, I have brought. That's when an individual would bring an offering. Masha Ankain Batamid, not so. Ein Kain, not so. With the Tamid, Ein Yachid Mikri Balim. It is not a Mikri Balim. So that is the Parashat Chatat Abalim Kai, the owners, Baal. So the Chatat is an offering of the owners, a personal one. The Tamid is not, an individual is not considered the owner of that offering. Uva Torah Girsa, and in the Torah the text is Ki ilu karev hatamid b'moado, as if he had offered the tamid in its time. V'zeh nachon, as if karev, it had been offered in the passive, as if this had been offered. That is correct. V'shar tshuva mishav gama girsa shalanu. Shar tshuva says our text also of as if we had offered is also all right, but what you shouldn't say is that I had offered. In the community, so some say you should say it at home, but come back and say it out loud to the community. That their way in that place was to say the Parashat Tamid alone in the community. They would only say that one together, and everyone would say the rest of it at home. And to go back, that their custom was their ancient custom from before, was to say it all together in a loud voice. If so, you cannot keep silent at the time that they're saying it in the community. The matter will be recognized. There's an idea that in davening in the community, you shouldn't stand out. Shouldn't be that everybody's saying something and you're not saying something. So let's say, whatever the reason is, the whole community is saying the Shema and you're not saying the Shema. Well, that doesn't look so good. That's like making a declaration that you're not part of the community. You don't believe Hashem is one. So even though you've said it yourself, doesn't matter. You say it together with the whole community. V'chavain, and the second time you have in mind, you're just reading the words. I'm b'Torah shurak l'ravcha demilta. Take a look in the Torah. This is l'ravcha demilta. Literally means the expansion of the matter. But what it means is it's not strictly necessary according to the law. It's just like a better, more expansive way to do it. That it should not look like you're bringing two offerings. So the better you have in mind, but I'm just reading it from the Torah. At the time that they are praying. So this was saying that you should tremble when you do the when you read out these ones, just like when you read out the Torah, and so to some tremble when they daven. V'yesh poskim, some authorities, like authorities, shecholkin al zeh, argue with us, vormim, and say tefillah ein lehitnanaya. In davening, you should not move. V'rak b'psukei de zimra birkat kriyat shema. In other words, you're talking about tefillah. When you talk about tefillah prayer, what we really mean is the amidah. Some say in the amidah it shouldn't be that you are moving around. Only rak b'psukei de zimra birkat kriyat shema v'limud Torah and Torah learning. Afilu shebal peh, even when you're learning Torah, haminag litna'anaya. The minag is to move. So this is what's called shokeling. This is the source for shokeling. Where does shokeling come from? Well, since the Torah was given on Mount Sinai with trembling, so we have this idea of trembling. Mekatev HaMagen Avraham, and the Magen Avraham wrote, V'di'avad, b'di'avad, that's posto facto. Kamar Avid, V'da'avid Bamar Avid, V'da'avid, I beg your pardon, that's not post facto, it's not di'avid, it's da'avid, one who does. kamar, like this, like the master, like this opinion. Aved, he does it. Ula Aved kamar, and one who goes like the other opinion. Aved also does it. In other words, you want to shake during the Amidah, you don't want to shake during the Amidah, it's fine. V'akol lefi mashu adam. Everything depends who the person is. If he concentrates better through moving, he should move. V'im lav, yamod. If he doesn't concentrate, better stand. It's not that there's a mitzvah to shake or there's a mitzvah not to shake. The main mitzvah is to concentrate. Provided that you're concentrating properly. And some move around in a mishubeshet, in a mixed up way. Shaguf omeid al omdo, that the body is standing where it's standing. Rak barosh hafech pamli aminu pamli small. Derech gaiva. It's just that the head is turning right and left. So it's somebody who's standing straight and moving their head all around, and he says right and left, derech gaiva. And this is an arrogant kind of thing, like somebody who's standing there, lord of their domain, looking all around. Ein lasot kain. That you shouldn't do. That's not a very good thing. Kedei lafarsein. So even though we read out the Rosh Chodesh offering on Rosh Chodesh, some have the custom to say it so that you're able to publicize that it's Rosh Chodesh. Aval Yom Tov ein tzrichin lafarsein. But Yom Tov you don't need to publicize. Shebacholu shekvar hu mefursam me'etmol. Because already it is publicized from yesterday. Aval Shabbat, but Shabbat, afal pishu mefursam, even though Shabbat's already publicized, omrim orata b'shachrit, you do say it at Shachrit. Sharei, and yocholin likrota b'Torah, because you're not able to read it in the Torah. Mimnei she'ein ba ela shnei psukim, because it only has 2 verses. K'mo she'yibar b'siman reish pei gimel, as we will see in number 283. And as we explained a minute ago. So that's chapter number 48. Chapter number 49, very short one. You are able to say the reading of the Shema off by heart. Ba'al peh, right? By the mouth. Through the mouth, off by heart. Afagav the kaimalan, even though, Aramaic for afal pi, afagav, even though, kaimalan, we hold, also Aramaic, Devarim shebichtav I atarashai le'omram ba'al peh. So there's really quotation marks over here. This is from the Gemara. Matters that are written, things that are written, I atarashai, I rashai permitted, I rashai you are not permitted, le'omram to say them al peh written down. The basic idea is that the written Torah should not be said off by heart. So even though things that are written, you do not have permission to say them off by heart, kol davar shiragil v'shura shagur b'fiakol. Anything that is regular and shagur, like fastened or fixed in the mouth of everyone. Kagon kriyat shema. For example, kriyat shema. Ubirkat kohanim, and the blessing of the kohanim. Uparshat tamid, and the section of the tamid. V'kayotzabe, and all other things. Mutar, then it is permissible. So you normally don't say Torah off by heart, but if it's Torah that everybody knows, so then you're allowed to say it off by heart. We're talking here, of course, about written Torah, oral Torah. You should say off by heart. Let's see more of that now. Devarim shebichtav, things that are written. Suma, a blind person, mutar likrot bal peh, can say it off by heart. Mishum eit la'asot la'Hashem eferi Toratecha, because of, also a quote, this is from Tehillim, because of Eit la'asot la'Hashem. It is a time to do for Hashem. Heiferu. Heiferu means they have negated your Torah. So on a simple level, what this means is, when people are negating Hashem's Torah, acting against Hashem's Torah, you need to go above and beyond, to go out there and do things for Hashem. But what the Gemara says it means as well is that desperate times call for desperate measures. And so when a blind person cannot read the Torah because he can't read it with his eyes, so we negate the Torah, we put aside the prohibition of saying it off by heart, because that's the only way that he would be able to study Torah. V'uadin, so too, imu v'veita asurim, if he is in, literally the house of bondage, which means prison, ein yachol le'asig chumash, and he is not able to reach a chumash, to get hold of a chumash, so then he can say it off by heart as well. You are not normally allowed to say it off by heart. Katav Radvaz Chelek Aleph Siman Kuf Lamed Hey, the Radvaz wrote, Likrota Parisha Balpeh B'Shah Sheshlech Tzibur Koreh Ani Nizar. To say the parsha off by heart, at the time that the Shaliach Tzibur, that the Chazan reads it, I am careful, I don't do it. Ava Eini Moreh La'acherim. But I do not instruct this to others. I don't say other people, you're not allowed to. Mishum dayesh poskim harbe, because there are many halachic authorities, shesovrim, who hold, da'isuhu davki im motzi baze lachem yedechu vatan. The prohibition is only, particularly, if I am fulfilling other people's obligation with my verbal reading of the Torah. So, for example, if I am getting up to read from the Torah and I'm not really looking inside the Torah, then that's going to be problematic. And that's what they wrote as well. In other words, the question is like this. I want to study a little bit of Torah, or I want to give a shi'ur, and I want to quote a verse. Should I make sure that I open up the verse in the book to give the shi'ur, or is it okay if I just quote it off by heart? So some say that if you are not actually fulfilling an obligation like Torah reading, then it is okay to quote it off by heart. Veshagur, something that is well known to people. But if it is not set and well known to everybody, even though you know it very well, asur, that is forbidden. Gogon Kriyat Shema, v'chein Psuket HaZimra, like Kriyat Shema, Psuket HaZimra, right? Everyone knows Ashrei, for example. You say Ashrei off by heart, that's fine. Parshat HaTamid, in the section of the Tamid. Katav Magen Avram, the Magen Avram wrote, Hama'ayin b'Beit Yosef, somebody who looks in the Beit Yosef, Yireh will see, Sheyesh de'ot shonot, there are different opinions. De'ot opinions, shonot, different. But ta'am, the reason for the heter, the permission, Amirat elu advarim balpeh, for saying these things off by heart. L'chai, therefore, yesh lizar shelo l'mashum davar balpeh, ki ma shenizkar po b'shulchan aruch. In other words, there's different theories about why this is allowed to be said off by heart, or that is allowed to be said off by heart. And therefore, you should be careful not to say anything off by heart. Ki'im, except for Mashinis Karpo b'Shulchan Aruch, what is mentioned here in Shulchan Aruch. Uv'tshuvat Chavat Yair, Mati Lomar Kol Sefer Tehillim Balpeh. Chavat Yair permits to say the entire book of Tehillim off by heart. To Kevin Shula Orer Rachamei Hashem, since it is to awaken or arouse the compassion of Hashem. Have leiket tefillah. It is to him like davening. It seems to me that you can rely on him. The smoch means close, also means rely. It seems to me you can rely on him to say the whole book of Tehillim. Without this, we have the opinion of the Teretz Kanim and the Gra, like those opinions that only to fulfill the obligation of many people, it's a problem to say it off by heart. So things like Tehillim doesn't seem so problematic. Mutar, it is permissible. So things like Tehillim, it's mutar. He says, why? And when it comes to fulfilling the obligation for others, for what's written, the Magen Avraham has the stringency not to say it off by heart in any manner. And that's the opinion of the Gra as well. In other words, so if you say the problem is only the things that you're fulfilling the obligation for others, so what about things like the Shema to fulfill the obligation for others? We come to that part in the Torah, so can the Baal Koreh just close the Torah and say the Shema off by heart because everyone knows it? No. When it comes to that, they say you can't do that even in that situation. That's it for today.